Hello, I'm Zsuzsa. Today I would like to talk about a posture which called downward facing dog, or other name Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Just in case you never heard, never seen this posture before, here is how it looks. It seems easy, isn't it? Well, officially this position is a resting pose. I have to admit, when I started my yoga journey, this posture was everything for me but resting, relaxing pose. I was constantly struggling. Actually, when I went to my yoga teacher training and the teacher asked us to present how we practice downward facing dog, she went around and she said, yes, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. And when she arrived to me, she said, now stop, look at this posture. You can see all of the mistakes you can find in the big books. Probably because my understanding, my technique wasn't right. That's why I was struggling in this posture. The aim with this video to really understand the bits and pieces, how to practice the posture, not to have shoulder pain after, not to have neck pain after, for example. And when you start to understand and you continue practicing, hopefully you will find peace in the pose, you can rest in the pose, you can find enjoyment in the pose. Enjoy the video. So first, let's see how to get into the posture. What is the distance between the hands and the feet? I show you two ways to approach the pose. Come into plank position. And from plank pose, lift your bum up towards the sky and imagine someone is behind you and pulling your pelvis backwards. Imagine there is something behind you and you want to sit on this something. Now you're keeping the distance between the hands and the feet. Or if it's a little bit uncomfortable, walk your feet just a teeny tiny bit closer to your hands, not too much. Basically, this is how you can measure the distance between the hands and the feet. The other approach to come into downward facing dog, come into all four position. Your hands and knees are on the floor. Now tuck your toes under and lift your knees just a teeny tiny bit. And using your hands and your feet, pushing the floor away from you, you're pushing your buttocks backwards. Again, someone is behind you, pulling your pelvis back. And here we are. You are in downward facing dog. It seems pretty easy, isn't it? Now, we will go through the bits and pieces. I will talk you through what is the position of the leg, of the feet, of the hands, the arms, the shoulders, the spine. It will be, again, awful lot of information. Please just pick whatever talk to you today. Just watch the video, try out things, and maybe next time other details will make sense. Just take it easy, take it slowly, trust your body, trust the process. Let's talk about the feet first. Some schools teaching that in downward facing dog you have to keep your feet together. Other schools teaching feet hip distance apart. My personal opinion and my personal practice, I keep my feet hip distance apart because it allows your body to be in a more natural shape, and there's definitely no pressure, no squeezing on the sacrum. Just a quick recap, what does it mean hip distance apart? If you go back to the Tadasana video, you can check your feet hip distance apart when your feet underneath your hip points. In this position, your heels are aiming towards the earth. If your heels are not on the floor, don't worry too much, and please don't concentrate that I have to touch the floor with my heels. Maybe you have lots of restriction in your calves, in your hamstrings, and you feel the stretch is overwhelming. Simply just bend your knees a little bit. If your heels on the floor, then lift your toes away from the floor. Do you remember the inner arch activation from the Tadasana video? Now we will do exactly the same. Lift the inner arches of your feet, activating both legs. Beautiful. Now from the feet, let's jump to the hands. Now come into all four position, your hands and knees on the floor. Your wrist underneath your shoulders and spread the fingers nice and wide. Press the knuckles of your fingers into the floor, the knuckles of your thumb index, middle, ring and little finger. Make sure as you're staying in the pose, you're constantly pressing the knuckles of the thumb and the index finger together, keeping the weight on this bone, which is slightly bit thicker than the other one. As you're lifting this area of your hand, you're not pressing the knuckles into the floor. It's really easy to build up a wrist issue, a wrist pain, injury after a while. By the way, if you have wrist problem, of course it depends what causing the problem, but you can try to place a folded mat or maybe a cork wedge underneath the heel of your hand to elevate this area a little bit. I will add a link of a cork wedge underneath this video. If you're interested, feel free to have a look. I can really recommend. Very easy to use even if you are vinyasa practitioner. When you are in the pose, imagine your mat is a door. There is someone on the other side of the door. You don't want this person to come in, and you're pushing the door, pushing, pressing your palms actively against the floor. Make sure as you even very actively pushing the mat away from you, your elbows are not locked. Keep a little micro bend in your elbows, mainly if you tend to hyperextend your elbows. Let's talk about the shoulders. I show you two pictures. Can you see the difference between these two pictures? You see, on the first picture, there is no space between the shoulder and the ears. And on the other picture, there is a nice long neck. There is space between the shoulders and the ears. And now let's see how to get from picture 1 to picture 2. Sit on your heels. Lift the arms. Squeeze your shoulders and drop your shoulders. Let's do it 2 more times. Again, squeeze, lift the shoulders next to your ears and drop. And 1 more time. Squeeze, lift your shoulders next to your ears and drop. Now stay there. Keep your arms straight-ish and keep your palms turning towards me. Stay there for a moment, just breathe. And now we will do exactly the same in child pose. Okay, come into child pose. Keep your palms on the floor, your arms are straight. And again, start to squeeze your shoulders next to your ears. And release. And again, 2 more times. Squeeze your shoulders next to your ears. And release. And last time. Squeeze. And release. Just feeling the difference between the 2 movements. This posture is a little bit more challenging than the previous one because your palms are grounded, rooted, so a little bit less freedom. Stay there for a breath or 2. Keep your shoulders away from your ears, turning your armpits in towards each other. Wrap your armpits in. And slowly release. Now let's move into downward facing dog. Exactly the same, isolating the shoulder, the movement of the shoulder. Okay? So come into downward facing dog. Find your posture, doesn't matter how it looks now. And start to squeeze your shoulders next to your ears and move your shoulders away from your ears. Turn your armpits in towards each other. Let's do it 2 more times. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And release. Just feel the difference between the 2 poses. And 1 more time. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And release. Just isolating the movement of the shoulder. Yes, it can be a little bit challenging. Stay there for a breath or 2. Mainly if you do it first time in your life, it can be a little bit weird, a little bit harder work because you're activating new muscles. Stay there. And again, slowly release. If it wasn't really easy, please don't worry too much. Mainly if you've done it first time in your life, of course our muscles need to learn, need to understand what is the position we want them to be in. But the good news is, if all of this didn't really make sense for you, There is another way to understand what the shoulders, what the armpit area is doing. I love this little trick, and this is what I will share with you right now. Come back to all four position again. Your hands underneath your shoulders and bend your elbows a little bit. And start to squeeze your elbows in towards each other. If you want, you can imagine there is a little ball between your elbows and you start to squeeze this little ball. Pressing your palms into the floor, and from now, keep your arms in this pose, okay? Keep this little bend and this squeeze in your elbows. And come into downward facing dog, tuck your toes under. Feel free to keep your knees slightly bent. Imagine someone behind you pulling your pelvis backwards, like you want to sit on something. If that's available, slowly straighten your legs or keep your knees bent, doesn't matter. Keep squeezing your elbows. Now I'm 100% sure your arms may be shaking. You might wondering what on earth going on. If there is someone is around, you can ask the person to check. There is lots of space between the shoulders and between the ears. Slowly, of course, gradually you can straighten your arms, slowly, but keep this micro bend and keep this squeezing feeling, squeezing movement between your elbows. Yes, I know it might be a little bit even more challenging than the previous option, but please just keep practicing and trust that your body will build up the muscle memory. Your muscle slowly will understand which muscle has to be active to keep you into the posture without too much strain, and you can find the peace, the ease, the rest in the posture. Again, just take your time, just enjoy the ride. And after the limbs, let's talk about the spine. As in downward facing dog, we try to create this triangle shape or E shape. What happens sometimes, we all much more connected to the back of the leg, consciously connected with the back of the leg than with the back of the body, with the spinal area. In case you have a little restriction in the back of the leg, in the hamstrings, back of the thighs, or in the calves, we, by some reason, want to straighten the legs. We really caught up, I want to straighten my leg, and straightening the leg, and because the body wants to compensate, you start to round your spine. The body weight is shifted slightly bit forward, so the body weight is on your hands. Can you see this posture? As you see, the spine is rounded. As you see, the whole body weight is on your hands, on your wrist. It's super easy to create wrist issue. What's the solution? Bend your knees a little bit. When I arrive into this pose, I always keep my knees bent and just very slowly, gradually straightening the legs if the body is ready for it, if the legs are ready for it. If not, in this case, just keeping the knees bent is perfectly fine. Don't forget the reason of the practice, to feel better, not to build up injuries. And towards the end of the video, let's have a couple of words about injuries or how to modify the posture. Because this is an inversion, which means your head is lower than your heart. It means if you have eye problem, let's say glaucoma, or you have high blood pressure, but serious high blood pressure, in this case practice with awareness. Maybe if you start to feel something is not really right, just come out of the pose first. Second, simply just practice all four positions when your hands and knees are on the floor. It's quite good if you have wrist pain. If you have wrist issue, I already mentioned, you can keep a folded mat or a cork wedge underneath your hand, the palm, underneath the heel of the palm. Or you can come into dolphin pose, which means instead of your hands, your forearms on the floor. But again, feel free to stay in all four positions. Yes, you can practice sun salutation. Even you can go to the flow class if you have injuries, accommodate all of these modifications in the class into the flow. How? This is what I will show you in the next video. That was it for today. Enjoy your practice. Thank you very much for your attention.